Simple. Either you are an adult with all the privileges of said adulthood, or you are not. If people do not, if adults do not think that 18, 19, and 20-year-olds are old enough to make decisions as insignificant, really, as these two decisions, then they're not old enough to make more important decisions, such as voting and such as serving in the military. Because let's face it, yeah, you got people in the military who are 18 to 20 years old who are making life and death decisions on a daily basis. Life and death. And their decisions will cause somebody to live or somebody to die. Drinking an alcoholic beverage, especially being responsible in drinking an alcoholic beverage, or smoking a cigarette, or a cigar, or chomping on chewing tobacco, is not going to cause somebody else's death. It's not. Well, sure, if you abuse it, yeah, that's a possibility. It's called drunk driving. We all understand that. But we have laws against it. And it's not just, those under 21 who are affected by anti-drunk driving laws. Everybody is. But are you trying to honestly tell me, and a liberal cannot defend their position on this, are you honestly trying to tell me that somebody can have life and death decisions over other people, but they're not mature enough to decide if they want to smoke or have an alcoholic beverage? There is no possible way you can logically argue against that. None. Zip. Zero. Nada. No logical argument whatsoever. There's all this touchy-feely arguments, which, look, at some point, those feelings can change. Yes, no, maybe, possibly. Yeah, well, of course. Public-private college funding. One of the things that on the weekend roundtables that we discussed was the public college funding issue and how it has dropped over the years, causing public college tuition to rise. And, they do have some legitimacy to their argument that, these public institutions were set up and funded by the states to provide a more affordable advanced education, if you will. And yeah, I don't have an issue with that. If a state wants to, if the people of a state want to have an institute of higher learning, that is fine. That's for the state to decide. And how they want to fund it is also for the state to decide. What I'm against is the federal government getting involved in any shape, manner, or form, because their involvement does not belong at the state level like that. Now, if there is no constitutional ability for the government to have its own university outside of military schools, then they really have no business being involved in higher education. Hell, actually, the federal government has no business being involved in education at a lower level either. Again, that's a state issue. No, the government can have and set. They can say, well, we have this national goal that, all kids should learn, math, reading, writing, and arithmetic and stuff like that, and have certain guidelines and levels, but they cannot force the state. They should not be able to force the state to go under certain programs like No Child Left Behind, all that kind of crap. Because it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's a proven fail. Every time the federal government comes out with one of these stupid programs, it ends up being a proven failure. But you know who suffers? Not the politicians. The kids, the students. And then eventually the general public, because the kids grow up to be adults, who then eventually get the opportunity and the legal right to smoke and to drink alcohol. But we're so worried about that that we don't realize that we're taking away people's liberty by taking away their right to choose for themselves. But we have all this notion that since public educate or college funding has decreased over the years, that somehow it's the fault of banks. Not the fault of a bank for charging a reasonable amount of interest. Look, if you're going to agree to borrow the money and you agree to pay it back, then how is that the fault of the bank? They're not forcing you to take the money. Well, they can't afford to go to college without taking those loans out. Do you realize that there are businesses out there that earn a lot of money annually by helping students find scholarships and grants? So it reduces the amount that they have to provide out of pocket. And in some cases, they find enough scholarships and grants where they don't pay a dime out of their own pocket. And these businesses are flourishing in this country. And indeed, I've heard people who have these businesses say that they can't handle all the business that comes their way, that they have to limit their clientele. And they can't just all of a sudden grow willy-nilly because, these agents or counselors, they have to be trained and understand and know, just like any other job. So it's not like, a company can just say, okay, I'm going to hire 100 people and in a few days have 100 people working, because that's not how it works. They have to train and supervise these new agents so they're actually able to help potential students who come to them. But it is a growing industry, helping people find grants and scholarships and helping those people navigate the quagmire of paperwork that is necessary for many of these things so they can actually be successful in landing that grant and or scholarship. And again, it's a market thing. People are demanding a product or a service, and then other people are recognizing that demand for that product or service, and they begin to offer ways to satisfy that need for that product or service. And this is one of those needs. But it doesn't mean that we need to start, especially it does not mean that we need to start providing public funds to private colleges. That's their whole goal, is just to simply make college free for everyone, regardless of cost. So in other words, they want the taxpayer to pick up the $200,000 plus college tuition of a Harvard or Yale or Brown or Dartmouth student or what have you. Plain and simple. Because then the person who takes out the loan isn't responsible for the loan. They don't have to pay it back. And that's what they want. They don't want to be responsible for something. Hey, there are places in this country that actually, for example, they give out scholarships for medical. They give out medical scholarships for doctors. Now, in return, when the person becomes a doctor, a medical doctor, they have to go to the community or the state in which gave them the grant or scholarship, and they have to fulfill a term serving the community in that town or city or state. You remember, was it Northern Exposure? I think that's what it was called. When he took this town, this small town in Alaska. They wanted and needed a doctor, a medical doctor. So Mr. Fishman, they paid for his medical degree, and then he was obligated to either repay the loan or the grant that they gave him, or be their doctor for a specific period of time. And once he got there, the whole premise and story is that how he didn't want to be there. Well, he didn't have the money to, skip out on his contract, so he had to stay. But that's the way it is. You have to pay back what you borrow. You have to pay back what you get. If it has strings attached, it's your own fault for accepting the money with the strings attached. It is not the general public. It is not the taxpayer's responsibility to pay back any type of loan or grant given to you. You're the one that signed on the dotted line. You're the one wholly and solely responsible for it. Nobody else. So if you get a degree, I don't care if it's a useless degree or a useful degree, but you cannot find a paying job within your field, well, that is not on the taxpayer. That is on you. For whatever reason, you need to look at yourself and decide that you need to up your game, if you will, or get a different degree and go on a different career path. Because if you can't find a job in your chosen career field, then maybe there is no opportunity for it. And if there's no opportunity, well, then you got to find something else where you can have an opportunity. You can't force opportunity where there is no opportunity unless you want to grow government. And that's the last thing you want to do is grow government even bigger, because now you're still taking from the taxpayer and you're really not paying it back. You're still having the taxpayer pay for you. And that's not how a free society survives. Not at all. Not at all. Well, folks, we are out of time for today. We'll be back tomorrow. So tune in, same bat time, same bat channel. Don't forget to visit rodeccles.net. See you then, folks.